if you had the power to pick between any characters, one in the DC, one in the Marvel universe, to do a 15 issue limited series comic, what characters would you choose? Now, keep in mind, one main villain, maybe.
This is a really good question. I think it's really fun, especially with Marvel and DC actually going on and doing official crossovers. What would I, as a fan, really like to see? Hi, I'm Jordan the Nerd of Gold, and I can see this going one of three ways. One, where a Marvel character crosses over into the DC universe, and we see an adventure from their perspective and how they interact with that world. Two, a Marvel character going over to the DC universe, and we get to see their perspective on the Marvel universe. And then three, a universe where they've always kind of coexisted, but they've never actually met each other, and I think that'll be really fun to explore as well. So in the first scenario, a Marvel character going over to the DC universe, I imagine if we're playing it pretty straight, not doing some like wacky alternate versions of every universe here, if we're playing it pretty straight, I think it would be really fun to see a young version of Peter Parker. Maybe he's still in like high school, senior year, maybe freshman year of college, that kind of age range, and he gets transported over to the DC universe, and he has to interact with the Teen Titans at this point. Maybe this is the Teen Titans where Dick Grayson has transitioned from Robin over into Nightwing, or maybe he's still Robin. It doesn't matter as much, but it's Robin, Cyborg, Beast Boy, Raven, Starfire, maybe a couple other members in there if we want to make it a little bigger. But that core team there and Spider-Man teaming up, because I think it'd be really fun to see Spider-Man interact with other teenage heroes his age, because he never really got that in the Marvel Universe. That was what made him unique within the larger context and within the history of the comic book medium, is that he was a teenage hero who wasn't a sidekick beforehand. Every other teenage hero kind of takes the model after him on that front. And even Spider-Man kind of owes a debt to Dick Grayson by being one of the first kid superheroes to make it really big and popular, to think that kids could be superheroes. So I think it'd be really interesting to see Spider-Man actually meet other heroes his age and go on an adventure like that. I think that would be really fun to see that. And we know that the Teen Titans are an incredibly popular team. They are also a team of characters who have very diverse origins, kind of like Spider-Man. He would fit fine just in that team, because the other major teen team that Spider-Man could have been a part of was the X-Men, but they all had something that united them in the form of their mutant status. The next story that I would really like to see is Batman going over to the Marvel Universe, and I know there's a lot of characters people want to see Batman team up with, because Batman is a character who can team up with basically anyone and it be a good story. And if that's the case, I want to put him someone with a less obvious choice. Daredevil would be really great. I could see that being great. Spider-Man and Batman, they've done it before, and I think it would be really good. But I'd want to see Batman and the Fantastic Four. Now, I know this is an unusual choice, but I think Batman would find the superhero family element to be incredible. I think he would like that a lot, and seeing them, how they've always been a family, and it's not a found family kind of thing. I think he would find that incredibly endearing and love that about them. I think it would also be really interesting to see Batman and Reed Richards go at it, because in most versions of Batman, he's one of the greatest academic minds in the universe on that front. He's up there with like Lex Luthor and Mr. Terrific on that front. So I think it'd be really fun to see Batman and Reed Richards interacting, and Batman and Johnny interacting, because Johnny is kind of like Dick Grayson on that front, and I think he could find some strength in relationships with Ben Grimm and Susan Storm. I think it would be really fun to find Batman, the guy who's constantly a loner, but also kind of finds himself being the patriarch of a found family of vigilantes, meeting an actual superhero family, and like seeing what that dynamic is like, and finding that maybe he could do things differently. I think that would be a really interesting dynamic to explore there. Now, the final version, where these characters have always existed, I'd really like to see Green Arrow and Iron Man team up in a world where these heroes have kind of always existed but never known each other. This helps cut down on the idea of, oh, they have to get back to this universe, or there's kind of that kind of world shakiness. We get to just see these characters interact with each other and inhabit the same world. They have the same concerns, rather than being like, oh, I can't change everything on this Earth and I don't have the right to do this over here kind of deal. They are characters who have a lot of similarities but very different approaches, both in their worldviews and how they act as superheroes. So I think it'd be incredibly fun to see Ollie, the billionaire who actually has a lot of like liberal and sometimes leftist points of view, versus Tony, the guy who's formerly a more of a conservative type person who's trying to make up for what he sees as crimes he's complicit in and trying to make the world a better place in his futurist mindset. I think it would be really fun to see these two guys interact with each other about like their old school versus new school approaches to crime fighting and just how they interact on a personality basis, because they're both so quippy against each other, but they have such very different views. I think it'd be really fun to see those two like butt heads against each other, but still go after the same villains on that front, and how they approach these villains working together on that front. I think it'd be really fun to see Green Arrow and Iron Man put together. But let me know, who are the characters in which of these scenarios that you would like to see work together?